Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Super Game Brothers podcast. This is a weekly board game and video game podcast that we do every single week, which is what weekly means, which is why I said it. As two brothers, David and Devin. My name is David, and I'm always joined by my younger brother, Devin. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing. I'm also here every week.
You are?
Yeah, doing good. Busy. Playing DLCs, fun games. It's the 4th of July time of year, so there's a lot of carnivals going on, parades. As you know, we watched one together. What else is going on in my life? A lot of fitness, trying to see movies, watching more horror films. I watched a lot of good movies recently. My goodness. To list a few, you've got to watch Brick. Fantastic. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's super good. Who is in that? I can't even remember his name. Amazing film. I'm gonna tell you who's in it. Here he is right here. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's very really young like him. In this.
Oh, so it's an old movie.
This is
2005, yeah.
2005. Fantastic. It reminds me of like Under the Silver Lake with Andrew Garfield.
I haven't seen that one yet, but I know you've raved about it a few times.
You've got to watch both of those. Just really weird, small community mystery type weird stuff going on. Fantastic.
Okay.
I watched...
Yeah, that's right up my alley.
Oh, yeah. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978, with the guy from Jurassic Park. What's his name?
Which guy? Hammond?
No, the guy that's also in Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, rah.
What is his name? What is his name?
He's in The Fly, and his name is Jeff Goldblum. That's his name.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I watched that movie. I watched a horror film called Polaroid, which was fine. I watched another horror slasher film that was also Christmas related called Better Watch Out.
Better Watch Out.
Honestly, weird twists in that movie. Kind of good. And then I watched one more psychological, like thriller type movie called High Tension. And that was fun as well. But anyways, enough about my movies. I'm doing well. Yep, doing well.
You've been all over those movies. That's cool.
That's one thing that I have a passion for is movies, and I don't know why. I just like to binge watch movies.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, but you have a much higher interest in movies than TV shows. Am I correct?
Every time I go into an app, like Netflix, Prime, Hulu, anything, I go right to the top, scroll over, and only click movies.
Yeah.
So it only searches through movies and doesn't even show me TV shows. I like TV shows, but typically I don't want to invest the next 2 months of my life into something.
Yeah, I get it. I kind of get that appeal as well. You get a lot of variety out of movies. You know, you can be in and out in an hour and a half, figure out if you liked it, and then if you did, maybe watch some more in that genre, and if not, pop around. Yeah, I think that's really cool. I feel like we watched a movie this week, but now I can't remember.
Did you get your wife to watch Smile with you?
No, not yet.
I will watch it with you.
Yeah, we just need to watch it. I was too late, like editing something or doing something that night, so we didn't get to think about starting it, but hopefully soon. Here we go, segue. Since I fixed our air conditioning unit today, and we're not both sweating to death, maybe that'll get her to watch a scary movie with me. So maybe that can be the motivation we need.
Oh yeah,
she's
gonna be like, it's kind of cool in here. I need my hubby to warm me up, watch this horror film with me.
Yeah, maybe. It was a rough day. That was probably the most uncomfortable I've been in a long time. Because at like 7 o'clock, it was already like, I don't know, 80 degrees outside. So the house just starts cooking and cooking and cooking. And man, it got hot in here. And I was really surprised at how like muggy it got. The humidity like goes up like crazy. Without the air conditioner to pull the humidity out. And yeah, it was brutal. I realized it wasn't working last night at like midnight, which is a bad time to figure that out.
Yeah.
So I started Googling a whole bunch of things, and I was like, can I fix this myself? Because we just don't, I'd rather not spend $1,000 right now on something as dumb as the air conditioner when we need to buy groceries and other things. But
and you did it.
So
you proved to yourself you're a handy man.
I did. After some Googling, I figured out that the most common issues are either with the compressor or the capacitor, which are two pieces that are outside in that box with the spinning fan.
Mm-hmm.
So at 2 a.m. last night, I was out there with a flashlight, and I took a couple panels off the side, like look at labels and see if any of the parts looked weird. And the guy on YouTube said if it looks kind of bulged and ruined, then it's this, and you need to order this part. So I ordered ordered the part on Amazon, same day delivery. But since it was like a commercial part, you can't even buy those things at Home Depot or Lowe's. So I couldn't even go pick it up. So I had to wait. It didn't get here till like 5 p.m. So the whole day was really rough. But there was also a lot of people online saying like, you should probably hire a professional for this, because this part, even after you've turned the breaker off, it holds an electrical current. That's kind of its job, is to help the fan start spinning when the thing turns on. And so you can shock yourself really bad if you're not careful. So I bought like these electric insulated gloves.
Were you still scared?
I was a little nervous, but I watched quite a few videos, and I guess you can like expel any electricity that's in that thing by touching it with a screwdriver with a rubber handle. So I had that, and I was holding it with the insulated gloves when I touched the contacts to try and get the charge out, and everything ended up fine. It's really cool because I replaced it for $45, and I don't know fully how much it would have cost, but the internet said anywhere from $300 to $1,000, depending on how scummy the HVAC company is with charging you for labor and stuff. But
dude, business idea, you just order both of the parts that it could be, and then you find people whose ACs go out, and then you go and fix it. You charge a couple $100, but it only costs you $45 for the part.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know if I want to do that full time. It was rough out there. It started raining right when I was about to start too.
Perfect.
And I was like, well, crap, I'm dealing with electricity. It's raining now. So I had to go back inside, wait half an hour. Yeah, it was a whole thing. But it's working now. The temperature has gone down from 82, I think it was, when it kicked back on. So I think we're in like 77 now. So we're getting back down into more comfortable area. It was rough. Anyways. That's what I was dealing with today. Trying to work and focus on anything was really hard. But it worked out. Got it all done.
Crazy.
Anyway, so I was saying, because of that, we saved a crap ton of money. So I'm either going to spend that on something, or maybe Lacey will watch Smile or some other scary movie with me. We'll see. Devin, you mentioned over the weekend we watched a parade, and then I think you went to the carnival. What's your opinion generally on parades, carnivals, clowns, the whole shebang?
I'm weird, and I kind of love it. I have this weird like interest in the life of like someone in the circus or someone who runs a carnival game. I'm like, you have such an interesting life, but I kind of understand the appeal. You go to different places. You probably have some friends in the industry. I don't know how it works. I don't know if that's a full-time thing. I don't know. I assume it's not a full-time thing because carnivals aren't year-round. I don't know. But Man, they
I don't
have
think they are
improved.
either.
We went up to the carnival and just massive attractions, bigger rides. They're all lit up. You know that basketball game, you know, the rims are rigged. It's kind of hard to make it.
Yeah.
They had that, and I swear the attraction was 15. No, probably taller. Probably 20 feet tall, the top. Just
Wow.
big old neon lights. You felt like you were in these alleyways of fun and noise. And I was with my niece and nephew, and they were riding rides and doing different things. And I was like, this is a good time. There's a ton of food trucks there. There was a concert going on, and it was absolutely packed. I've never seen so many 12 to 18-year-old people in my life.
Yeah, that was probably the hot spot to be that night. Yeah, I'm glad you liked it. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with them too. I think they are fun. I generally am not a fan of being around that many people, but I think they can be a fun time. And I agree. I like kind of the arcade game feel. The hard part for me is I always feel like I'm getting ripped off. Everything is so expensive, things like that. Yeah, you want to ride the Ferris wheel? That's 20 tickets, and a ticket is 77 Shroot bucks, and a Shroot buck is a half a dollar. You know, they have like weird conversions, or you need to buy tokens to convert them into tickets. And yeah.
Right. And then if you play a game, instead of winning a PSN gift card, you get a stuffed polar bear.
Right.
Which is going straight to the DI.
Yeah, it is especially for you. You know, mom's not going to let you keep 20 stuffed teddy bears in your room. Yeah, that's kind of the hard part for me. There are a couple like arcades close to our house that are like a screaming deal where, you know, you go in and pay, I don't even know, $20 a person. And I did that a few months ago with me and my two older boys. And you get like a swipe card that has your $20 on it, and you go around and swipe at the different machines to play your games. And we were there for like 3 hours and could not for the life of us like spend all the money. I don't know if they made a mistake with the cards, but man, that lasted a long time.
Wow.
Felt like we were at Nickelcade or something. But so sometimes I'm like, yeah, this is fun. We're getting like a good deal at least out of it. Kids got some candy and dumb toys at the end, and we were able to have fun for a few hours. But I feel like at the carnival, it's like, hey, I'll take that, you know, $60 from you as well, but you're only going to get to have fun for 3 minutes. So yeah, I don't know. They are kind of fun though, with the concert going, like you mentioned, and people having a good time. You get some nachos or something. They can be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, summer's kind of in full swing. It's crazy.
Been very hot.
Crazy.
Scary hot. I got in my car the other day and I said to our sibling, I said, this is so hot in here, I feel like it's almost a health hazard. It's like, we got to get out. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. That is one nice thing about having a garage, for sure. Your car gets way less hot. Because anytime, like when we came over on that Saturday to hang out at mom and dad's, after the parade, car sitting in the sun out there, super hot getting back in. But
brutal.
Yeah, that's rough. I want to get, they make this like film you can put on your windows for your cars, kind of like tint, but it can be totally clear, and it's like a thermal tape that will keep heat out, cold air in, and supposedly it keeps the temperature in your car like drastically, but like
really
cooler, and makes the air conditioner work way better, because most car air conditioning systems are like not great because they're working like overload and all the cold air is just going out the window anyway.
Does the thermal tape only go on the windows or on the entire body?
I think it's just the windows.
Okay.
Because I think the rest of the body is usually not the spot most of the heat is transferring out. But I don't know, maybe you could put it on the body as well if you wanted.
Interesting.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, summer. Fun. Well, yeah, lots going on. Lots of fun stuff here in podcast land too. Yeah, this is our weekly video game and board game podcast, like I mentioned at the top. We run a couple of YouTube channels as well about board games and video games. Lots of fun stuff up this week on my board game channel, Gaming Top Down. I'm going through every board game in my collection. I'm coming up on, don't let my wife hear this part, but 350 games is how many I have in this room behind me, which is a number that's a little scary. And so that video would be extremely long, so I'm breaking it down into segments. So I'm going through each game that starts with a letter of the alphabet. So I've done the A, B, and C video will be up tomorrow. And I'm surprised at how many games I have for each of the 26 letters of the alphabet. I think the C video has like 20 games in it or something.
Yeah, I mean, if you break that down, it's probably about 15 per letter.
Yeah. And I talk about them each for like a minute. So those videos are like 15 to 30 minutes long. So
wow.
Yeah, it's been really fun. So if you want to see every board game that I have, excuse me, that I have, and then I rank them in categories of if I haven't played them yet, if I'm thinking about purging them or selling them from my collection, and then what my favorite games are from that letter. So kind of fun to break it down that way. On our other channel, Super Game Brothers, that's where we do most of our video game stuff. Devin has also started running his Twitch streams to that YouTube channel as well, which has been fun. So you can actually see all of his VODs as well. I think starting this week is when he started that. So his Elden Ring playthroughs so far are on there. I think one was 6 hours, one was 7 hours. So there's going to be a lot of live videos on that YouTube channel, which is going to be fun. So if you want to check out what Devin does for 6 to 8 hours a day on weekdays, check those out either on our YouTube channel or on Devin's Twitch, which is Player4, or on TikTok if you're really inclined. That's Player4 TV, or just on our Super Game Brothers YouTube channel. A couple other things. We have a giveaway going on every month. This is kind of your last call for the June giveaway. I think when you hear this on free feeds, it will actually be too late. I think it's July 1st on Monday, maybe 2nd. So never mind. You can't do it. It's too late. It's over. Unless you're a patron and you hear this episode on Friday, make sure that you join the giveaway. And we'll have a cool giveaway for July as well. We're giving away a copy of Orichalcum, which is a fun big box kind of board game, or a $50 gift card. And yeah, make sure to check us out on Patreon as well. We have a free tier over there and a bunch of other tiers where you can get cool perks. I put a couple exclusive videos up there this week. We do an exclusive monthly Q&A. You can get your name in the credits, get the podcast 3 days early, all this stuff. This is a thing I want to call out. You don't have to interact with Patreon if you don't want to after you sign up. For example, if you wanted to get the podcast 3 days early but never wanted to sign into Patreon ever again, you could do that. You sign into Patreon the one time, say, yeah, I want to sign up at the $5 level to get the episodes 3 days early, and then you'll get a unique code that you can put in to your podcast player of choice, and it'll link with Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and then those will just automatically through the RSS feed pop into your podcast list the next Friday and the Friday after that and the Friday after that. So you really would never even have to go back to Patreon if you don't want to. So even if that's a hurdle, don't let it be. Got a free tier. It's no biggie. Yeah, because we have fun here every week, and that is how we keep the lights on. Really appreciate everyone joining us over there and supporting us in that way. All right. Well, for this episode, we don't have quite as much news as the last few weeks, which is kind of nice because they were a little nuts. But we do have some fun stuff. There was one more kind of mini conference after like the 7 or 8 that we went over in the last few weeks. So we'll talk about a few announcements from those and talk about a little bit of board game and video game news, and then end with a listener question to close out. So first up, we're going to jump into the news Mini-Nuke. This is where we talk about kind of game announcements, games that came out this week. and games that are now free on subscription services. So first up, a new game was announced called A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead. It's from Saber Interactive and a team called Storemind Games. They made a series of horror games called Remothered, I think. The first one reviewed pretty well, and I think even won a couple like Indie Game of the Year awards. But I think the second, Remothered, didn't review as hotly. So hopefully this game will they'll continue to grow, and this game will be a stepping up point for them. I really love A Quiet Place. I think it's an excellent like introduction to horror. It's really just more like a monster thriller movie. It's not like especially scary, but I think it's an excellent movie series with a really cool premise of just you have to be quiet. And this trailer is not a gameplay trailer. It's just kind of a cinematic trailer. But at one point, this character lifts up a tool that reminds me of that radar thing in Alien Isolation. And I think it's tracking like your sound, like how much noise you're making. And so if they're tracking that as like a dynamic element of the game, I think that would be really cool. Anyway, so I hope this is a good one. It comes to console and PC later this year, so not too far out, actually. Yeah, I really like A Quiet Place.
That looks wild.
Really fun movie series. I think the new one just hit theaters, or it does on Friday. What's your opinion on A Quiet Place, Devin? And from that brief trailer, interested in the game?
Yeah, I love Emily Blunt. I also love Alien Isolation. I love horror. So absolutely, yes, I will be playing this.
Sweet, Devin's all in.
I'm all in.
Nice.
Take my money.
Yeah, I hope it rules, because I think that series deserves a really solid video game. Okay, next up, a game called Norse was announced. It's a turn-based tactical Viking game. And I don't know much else about it, but it kind of gave me Kingdom Come Deliverance vibes, except for its kind of turn-based tactical battles as opposed to first-person fighting like in Kingdom Come, I believe. But graphics look pretty good. The production values look high. Hopefully it can be kind of a fun new entrant into that tactical kind of strategy game genre, because there's not a ton of those, in my opinion.
It does seem like there are it seems like there are a ton of games in this genre.
Like the Viking genre, or like
yes.
I do feel like it's kind of having a resurgence. Like Assassin's Creed did Vikings a couple of years ago. What was that one called? Valhalla, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then like the new God of War is all Norse mythology as well. This one's a little more grounded. It doesn't look like there's at least I don't think so, like dragons and creatures, but similar idea with the Vikings and kind of Nordic people. So hopefully it's good. Looks like they've got a bit of a budget, so it could end up being pretty good. Next up is a very nostalgic one for me. I hope that these games are as good as I remember, and we'll come back to that at the end of the episode. But Gex was one of the very first games I ever played on the PlayStation, because we got it that first Christmas with the PlayStation. And then the second and third Gex were both 3D instead of 2D. But this trilogy was already announced, but they released a new trailer, and the collection, this trilogy, should be out sometime this year, they said. So I'm very excited to try these again.
Oh, as am I. I can't even believe it as I'm watching this, the sentimental feelings I'm getting. One of the scenes here is actually an alert I have on stream. I love this game
that's
so
true.
much.
You do have some Gex alerts. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I hope that it doesn't come out as like a. I hope that by me replaying it, I don't realize, these aren't very fun. But I think sometimes, even if a game isn't great, the nostalgia is so high that you don't even care. Next up is one called Fear Effect. This is also a remaster of a PlayStation 1 game. I had never heard of this game, but people that were maybe a bit older than me during the PlayStation 1 would maybe have played this. I was more of a Crash Bandicoot and Gex, like we already talked about, because I was 5 when we got our PlayStation 1. But this game kind of has a GoldenEye, Metal Gear kind of vibe to it. So if you've played Fear Effect, it's getting a remaster next year. And while this trailer plays a little bit, I guess a lot of these games were shown at the Limited Run Games showcase. They do like physical versions of games that wouldn't otherwise get physical versions. I can't think of like a good example at the moment, but that's where their name Limited Run comes from, is that they'll print like a limited run of something. Yeah, we'll print 5,000 copies, and so you can pre-order them, and they're generally kind of pricey, and then we're not printing anymore because it was just kind of a one-time thing, and so the kind of resale value on those is pretty high usually. And anyways, they've had a bit of drama and controversy as a company lately, but some of the things they showed I thought were pretty cool. And so that's where the Gex thing came from, and this Fear Effect one. Next up is another remaster called Dead Rising, and this game was actually already remastered once for the PlayStation 4, but it's getting like another remaster for some reason. I think this was a pretty seminal zombie game that people really liked when it first came out. If I remember correctly, you're like stuck in a mall, which is a very common zombie movie trope. Maybe this one isn't, maybe that's not the case, but it does kind of look like it there. So if you like Dead Rising, that one will be out in another remastered form later this year. Next up was a first-person action RPG called Alcahest. I don't know what that word means, but it's a first-person action game, and I thought it looked pretty cool. It has some weird kind of monsters in it. Again, kind of going after this Skyrim Nordic Viking vibe, but this one's got a lot more like fantasy, orcs and dragons and stuff in it. And I felt like of the 2 Viking games that are here in this segment, Norse and then this one would probably be more my jam because it's not turn-based and tactical. It's like a first-person, game, kind of like Skyrim. I'm guessing this isn't gameplay really that it's showing here. This is more of like cinematic to show what gameplay might look like. But anyways, I thought that one looked pretty cool. It didn't have any date though, so it might not be out for 3 years, but it was shown. So there you go.
They did show it. It looks like it could almost be in VR.
Yeah, that's a good point too. It feels like anytime I see a game that's like strictly first person and has like the 2 hands up front like Skyrim, it makes me think of VR as well. I think Skyrim even got a VR version that people really like.
They should call it VRIM.
VRIM, yeah. And Doom did as well. It was called Doom VFR, the F standing for something I can't say on stream. Virtual frog reality. Let's see. Next up was one that I thought was pretty cool. A collection of games was released, I think, last year called Atari 50, the anniversary collection, and they're releasing like a new version of it that has a bunch more games added. So from Push Square here said that it has 39 additional games to the ones that were already in it. And Atari had a big presence like in the early video game days with arcade cabinets and games on like the original systems. So some of the games that are listed here are like Asteroids and Breakout and Berserk. Yeah, so I'm very interested in that. I like some of those games a lot. So yeah, this one was kind of probably more interesting to me than anyone that's more interested in modern games generally. But I thought that was a cool little update they're doing to that one. Next up is a game I haven't played, but I remember wanting to play it back when it originally came out. And this game's getting kind of a remaster up-res version as well. It's called Epic Mickey Rebrushed. It's surprisingly cost $60.
Wow.
So hopefully the remake, hopefully it's more of a remake and they've like done a lot as opposed to just giving it high definition graphics. It comes out on September 24th, and I think it's Mickey Mouse, and I think he uses this kind of magic paintbrush to, I think, fight and paint along the world, and maybe even like to solve puzzles and do other things. A lot of Disney games are not necessarily like my cup of tea, but I did like a lot of them growing up, and I'm not necessarily Disney averse, so this could be cool. I think it might even have co-op. Can't remember totally, but Epic Mickey Rebrushed, that one September 24th of this year. Next is a game that I am really excited for. We've shown it a couple times on the podcast. I think it was even in Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest show. It's this game where you play as, I think, a frog's shadow that has lost his frog, and you have to hop between other shadows to try and find your frog, and along the way you find other shadows who have lost their object, and you have to help them find their object too.
What a cool
super
idea.
Like unique, cute game. Again, I say this almost every episode, but I love it when a game tries something new, even if the new thing isn't too crazy. Like this is just a kind of a 3D platforming game where you do jumps, at least on first blush, with probably a little bit of thought and puzzle solving into where you jump. But just the fact that, our unique thing is that the character will be a shadow and jump into other shadows. I think it's cool. So hopefully that one will be, hopefully it'll be a good game and not be too repetitive. That one is going to come to PlayStation on July 18th. I don't think there was a release date announced before this last week. So coming up quickly, since July is next week somehow. Next up,
Wild.
very, very popular game, Pal World, is only on, I think it's on PC, Xbox, and I think that might be it. I don't think it's on Switch. Maybe it is. They teased basically that it should be coming to PlayStation soon. They tweeted out, Devin, if you click off that picture for a moment, you can see the tweet. They tweeted out a picture with a few hearts, like a black, a green, and a white heart, then the word Pal World, and then white, green, and black. And then the words, I want to add more hearts, but I'm not sure what color would fit. How about, and then put the same thing with some blue hearts in it as well. This is their like official social media channel. So obviously, I mean, it seems pretty obvious that's what they're teasing. I don't know what else it could be. So Pal World seems like it's coming to PlayStation sometime soon. Next up is a game based on Rugrats, which was a TV show I really liked. And I don't think this one is a remake or a remaster. I think it's a brand new game. It has a cool idea. It's a 2D 8-bit game where you can, at a press of a button, hop back and forth between 8-bit older style graphics and like hand-drawn, nice, pretty graphics, kind of same way that the Halo Master Chief Collection does it. And so they show that hopping back and forth here in the trailer. I don't know if the gameplay looks like very good, but hopefully this is more of like a Shovel Knight approach where they took those limitations of, we want to make a game that could, in theory, run on the NES, but we're going to make it play like and have all of the quality of life features of a modern game. So hopefully it's good. Hard to know from that trailer. The gameplay looks a little stiff to me, but I loved Rugrats. Who was your favorite Rugrat, Evan?
I'm just gonna say Tommy, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I agree with you though. The game looks. If I scroll back just a little bit in this video, the movement looks very stiff. Something that they introduced a long time ago. I don't know what first game did it, but the original Donkey Kong, the fact that you could hold square while moving, added so much to precision in a game, in my opinion. And being able to speed run a game and do longer jumps. When a character only moves one speed, no matter the directional input you push on a controller, that can be rough for me. So they didn't really show any sprinting in this. I hope that it's added, or it might be kind of stale.
Yeah, yep, I agree. And even if you're playing this game with like the analog stick and you just barely press it over, like hoping you'll, kind of sneak or walk really slowly, if there is that only that one speed, then it's hard to have any like nuance or detail in your control. So
yeah,
we'll see. Hopefully it was just a kind of bad trailer, and the game will be better than that. But who knows? Next up was one that I just thought looked funny. It's called I don't even know how to pronounce this. Kiniku Niko Super Muscle Cat, and you play as this cat that's jumping around and doing weird stuff, and like seems like being friends with all of these girls, and then at different times for some reason the body of the cat vanishes and the body of like a humongous bodybuilder pops up, and you exercise and do weird things. Very odd looking game, but I thought it looked funny, even if the game might be not very incredible to play. It's more of just kind of the appeal of it being weird is kind of the appeal here, maybe.
Right.
But it does look like you turn into just a cat for a while. So you're not always the almost naked bodybuilder. You're sometimes just a cat. So I don't know. Hopefully that can be a fun game. Fun idea. That was all of the video game announcements for the week. So next up we're going to jump into the games that are new to subscription services. And just today, Sony announced the PlayStation Plus Essential Games for next month, July 2024. They are always available on the first Tuesday of the month. So that should be, I think, this coming Tuesday on July. What will that be? 3rd? 2nd? Whatever Tuesday is. I think it might be the 3rd. The 3 games for this month are Borderlands 3 on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. NHL 24 again on both consoles, and Among Us again on both consoles. I think this is a pretty good month, to be honest.
Yeah.
Borderlands 3 is a big game. For some reason, I feel like it had already been free before, but maybe it must not have been, because you bought the game a long time ago, and so I just had access to it through your account since we game share. So yeah, if this truly is the first time Borderlands 3 has been free on PlayStation Plus, I think that's a big win, because that game's a lot of fun. You can have a lot of kind of zany hours of fun in that game, getting weird weapons, upgrading your loot, and just fighting weird bosses. I still remember the first boss.
Oh, it's
that kind of has that room with the music pumping. That's a really cool boss fight.
Agreed.
I feel like some of the other bosses after that fight were not as cool. But I did like that one a lot. So yeah, Borderlands 3 is really great. I've heard that the hockey games, NHL, are actually really good as well. I haven't played one. I'm not really into hockey so much, but a couple of members of my extended family really are, so maybe I'll give that one a try. And I have yet to play Among Us. We've talked about this in the past. You gotta have a lot of friends for that one, or be really open to just joining a group and talking with lots of randoms, which isn't really my jam either. But that's a big win, I think, because that game is pretty big, pretty huge. I feel like its moment in the sun has kind of passed, but I imagine, just like Fortnite, whose biggest days are probably behind it, it still has a huge pull. So anyways, those are the 3 free games. Make sure to add them to your collection if you have PlayStation Plus on Tuesday, because even if you don't intend to play them anytime soon, as long as you add them to your library, then you can play them later, a year from now, 2 years from now, whenever. All right, next up, the free game this week on the Epic Game Store is one called Sunless Skies Sovereign Edition. And I think it's kind of like an RPG, like a story-based RPG And it doesn't really look like a David game, but maybe it could be fun. The only gameplay they really show in the trailer is kind of top down above your ship, or what appears to be your ship, and you fight some monsters there, and then it seems like you make decisions, kind of build out your character probably in menus, kind of outside of that ship combat. So I don't know, maybe it could be a good time. Has some interesting art, and I think it's kind of Lovecraftian horror a little bit.
Awesome.
I don't think it's especially scary, but add that one to your library as well in the Epic Game Store completely for free. All right, that is all the free stuff this week. Next up, the games that released this week, and there are 4 of them. First one is a remake of a game that came out, I think, in the 90s called Riven. This remake is only on PC and MetaQuest, so I'm guessing you can play it MetaQuest. Obviously, you can play it in VR. This game very much reminds me of Myst or The Witness. It's like a puzzle game where you are exploring like an island, maybe reading some notes or something, and you explore the island solving puzzles. It looks really pretty. It's reviewed really well, actually, and so I'm very intrigued to check it out. I hope it comes to console as well. I don't know why it wouldn't, so I'll probably wait for a PlayStation version, and hopefully that will happen. If it hasn't happened in 6 months to a year, then maybe I'll look at checking it out elsewhere. But that is Riven. It has an 86. That's a mighty score, I believe, on OpenCritic. Next up is Beyond Good and Evil 20th Anniversary Edition. This one's kind of a game with a cult following. I've never played Beyond Good and Evil. It's kind of this zany fantasy story from, I don't even know, PlayStation 2, I would imagine, if it was that long ago. And I know that basically that group of people that really love this game are always bugging Ubisoft on when is Beyond Good and Evil 2 coming out. And I think at one point, like 5 years ago, they said, fine, we are making it, but then it's kind of been lost and never spoken of again. So who knows? Maybe the second one will come out one day. And if you've never played the first one, this is probably the best way to play it. So Beyond Good and Evil 20th Anniversary Edition has a strong 84 on OpenCritic. Next up is the second Luigi's Mansion game. I think this one was only on 3DS until this point, and now it's on Switch. So this is Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. It has a strong 79 on OpenCritic. At least it did when I looked. I think when you just scrolled past it said 77. But either way, I really like Luigi's Mansion. They're just like very lighthearted, fun. Walk around as Luigi, be scared of stuff. Well, Luigi's scared of stuff. You won't be scared. They're not scary games. But Luigi will be scared of everything. Get some ghosts, suck them up in your vacuum. It's fun. I really like number 3. And I've played a bit of the first one as well. So I'll probably get this one. My kids really love Luigi's Mansion, so they will be all over wanting this one. It has a 79 on OpenCritic, which I think is also a strong score. And then last up is Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, which I've seen some people say isn't perfect, but is kind of a return to form from some of the bad Super Monkey Ball games. So it's supposed to be pretty good. It's also got a strong 75 on OpenCritic. I always thought that these games were fun. It's basically like kind of similar to Mario Party in a way. You're doing these short mini games with these monkeys rolling around in their big hamster balls. But yeah, very weird. A weird idea. Whoever thought of that. But yeah, they're just kind of zany fun. So if you like Super Monkey Ball, check that one out as well. All right, that is it for the news Mini-Nuke. Devin, of those games that are coming out this week, Riven, Beyond Good and Evil, Luigi's Mansion, and Super Monkey Ball, which are you most likely to ever play?
Probably Luigi's Mansion. Riven, though, the graphics were unbelievable.
Yeah, very pretty.
The lighting was so good. Mm-hmm. Like, dang, maybe I will dabble in that a little bit.
Yeah. Yep, I thought it looked very pretty as well. So I'm really hoping for a PlayStation version at some point. All right, we went over the new board games for the month of June last week, so I'm not going to go over any of those. And again, it's kind of convention season, so there aren't any like big announcements to be going over. People are just kind of seeing and playing games at those conventions. Sometimes things are announced there, but you kind of have to be there to know that. And yeah, it's a whole thing. So next up, we're going to go into what we have been playing for the last week. Maybe I'll start here, Devin, since you've got a couple things pulled up already. So I've been really into puzzle games. We've talked about this for a couple months now, I feel like, thanks to Baba Is You and Animal Well and some other ones I've been playing. And this one that I'm about to talk about, having a hard time talking today, is called the Entropy Center. And it's a first-person puzzle game, kind of in a similar vein to something like Portal. But instead of shooting portals with your portal gun, in this one you have a gun that shoots kind of, what would you even call it? You can rewind objects in time. And you can rewind them up to like 30 seconds. So like ceiling might fall or something happened, and you can rewind different elements of these puzzle rooms in order to solve the puzzle rooms. And by defeating is not the right word. By beating these puzzle rooms, you're generating entropy for this kind of big space station on the moon. And that entropy power is being used to save the Earth, because the Earth is in kind of this loop where these bad things keep happening. And so the game is very pretty. Like, it opens with this weird scene of you having a dream on the moon, and the entire Earth is like out in front of you. Super pretty scene. And then there are some other scenes of the Earth exploding, and you can like watch it as you're solving a puzzle, and you're like trying to hurry and stuff, because you use that entropy to then rewind the Earth so that that calamity doesn't happen. And you'll rewind it like 10 years past that calamity moment, and then they send like some messages back to Earth saying like, hey, this is what happened. You need to plan for it now. So they've kind of changed the timeline so that calamity won't happen again. A lot of that is just kind of told in the story. Your gun has this little AI face on it that will talk to you. I think its name was Astra, maybe. So there's a little bit of like, again, very much inspired by Portal, with GLaDOS is like the voice in Portal that's always talking to you and cracking funny jokes. This entropy gun that you use also has a very silly, funny robot that talks to you like throughout the whole game. So yeah, it's a very fun puzzle game. So far, I think I've done the first 5 puzzle areas. I played for like an hour and a half, and the puzzles have been pretty easy so far. So I'm hoping that they get a little more complex, but this is a fun game. I think I got it totally for free on PlayStation Plus. I should have checked before the podcast, but it's probably on Extra or something. So if you can try it for free, I think it's a really good one so far. We'll see how it ends. At this point, I like it about as much as I liked the first half of Portal. Portal's just really solid as well and ends with a bang. So hopefully this one will too. Other than that, the other game I've been continuing to play is Animal Well. So I got my 11th playthrough segment up on our YouTube channel. And yeah, it's just still great. The end game is tough though. I'm starting to notice like these statues like in the dark of the background in different rooms, and you kind of have to figure out, like, I still don't know at this point what they even mean. But there are some with like some symbols and numbers on them, and yeah, I'm trying to figure out what those mean at this point. There are some, after you kind of defeat the main quest of the game, there are, I think, 3, like, I don't even know what you would call them, like kind of bonus dungeons that are more advanced to get to, and then have kind of an advanced puzzle inside of them. I've done one of those, and I'm trying to figure out how to open the door to the one with the kangaroo in front of it. And man, I cannot figure out how to open the door. You have to find these fragments of a disc, and I cannot find like the second and third fragment. But man, Animal Well is still really great. So many layers. I got a couple new items in this playthrough. Found some new eggs. Found some more of the secret kind of collectibles at the end of the game, which are cats. Yeah, it's just great. You can get it gets really intense. I'm not sure what those statues even mean. I was like putting all these stamps all over the map thinking, oh, it wants me to mark the map here with this specific symbol. I don't think that's actually what it was. So I was like plopping flames and skulls all over the map. You can eventually you unlock a pencil and you can free write on the map. Like you can see there I've written the word monkey. So like everyone's map ends up looking way different because you've like written weird things. I wrote a K there instead of kangaroo because kangaroo is very long and hard to write with a D-pad. So yeah, Animal Well still amazing. I hope that I can make a little more progress. I feel like I did really good in this 11th segment to make progress, but you do kind of hit some walls in this game. But I'm trying really hard not to look anything up just so that I can discover it all organically. But it is tempting because some of them are really obtuse, and I'm like, okay, if I could just get like a tiny hint, it would help a lot. But
you don't know where that tiny hint is because it could be at the furthest room on the map.
Right, exactly. And if I Google it, instead of seeing the tiny hint, I'll probably see the solution, right? So I'm afraid to like Google like what to do next, and it'll say like, oh yeah, go here and you'll win. I'm like, okay, cool. So yeah, I'm trying not to Google anything. Oh, I did have a better time this playthrough because after watching you play the game, in like 5 seconds, you realize there was a quick swap with the items.
Oh yes.
Which after playing the game for like 10 hours, I had still not discovered somehow. But anyways, Animal Well, still super great. Everyone play that. It's free on PlayStation Plus Extra. All right, those were the 2 video games I've been playing this week. If you want to check out either of those videos, the Animal Well one is just on our YouTube channel. The Entropy Center video was our advance episode, which are the Patreon exclusive episodes. So that one you can see if you pop over there. So anyways, Devin, I know you've been playing one game. Have you played anything else other than this one game?
No.
Okay.
And I don't plan to. I've had a lot of people say, check out, what was it? Cube World. There's another game Hoof sent me today, and I cannot remember what it is. It comes out very soon. It's a looter shooter third person with fun costumes. I don't remember what he called it, but I am absolutely obsessed with Shadow of the Erd Tree DLC from Elden Ring. I don't even know where to start to describe this. It's massive, first and foremost.
Is it a full new map? Like,
oh yeah,
do you have to warp somewhere else? Like, it's not integrated into the original, right?
Correct. And there's its own upgrade system in the new map. They call it like Skadu tree shards or something. You find them around the new map, and it slowly builds your level in this. So even if you scaled to New Game Plus 7, let's say, in the main game, I don't think it really helps you that much.
So it's kind of like a fresh start.
Yeah, and when you get it makes it fair.
That's super smart.
Yeah. It's absolutely amazing. It is so big. We spent almost 2 hours in one castle today that a lot of players who played this didn't even find because they mainlined it to the main, I believe, 5 bosses in it. And we have found multiple side bosses that do not need to be defeated to beat the DLC, but we found so many areas. We found random notes on the ground, a picture of a sunset that basically tells you, once you've unlocked enough of the map, go and try to find this exactly where this picture was taken in the world for an item. And so there's just so much replayability and end game content in a DLC that I think we're going to be stuck on this for 2 to 3 weeks. Wow. It's such a good game. For example, we were in a castle today. I came across an enemy I'd never seen before. Imagine there's 50 different areas in the DLC. Each of those areas has unique enemies. Typically, you don't see a lot of repeats. And so I killed this guy, and he was very difficult, and he dropped me some leg armor, and I was like, oh, interesting. This leg armor was exclusive to that enemy type. Let me reload into this area and continuously kill that guy. And so I'd reload, go through all the little ads, find him again, try to kill him. He'd kill me because he was like super OP. And it took a long time. It took like an hour of us trying to farm these things, and I killed him a second time. And it gave me, I think, his helmet. And I was like, this is so cool. Most people never found this section of the DLC, and also probably didn't sit here and farm this one enemy to get a full armor set that I will have. And so you can kind of flex your gear that way. We killed him a couple more times and ended up getting his weapon, which we have maxed out to 10 now, and you can dual wield these crazy swords. I won't spoil anything.
Oh, that's where you got those, was from that same enemy?
And so It's just so cool. You can play it in any way you want to play it. You're going to miss 80% of the things if you don't search and search and search and farm and so many things. Like, I saw a video today. He said there's an enemy on the map that has a 0.5% chance of dropping its headgear when you kill it. So you might have to kill it 200 times to get it. That's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
And so for you to have a really unique armor set in this game honestly takes a lot of grinding. It is extremely hard, but I like it that way. I like to go into every fight just melee. I try not to bring summons and magic into fights, but I have had to in a couple of them, or I think I'd be stuck on them for 20 hours, truly. They really did a lot of AoE, or area of effect, massive attacks that are very hard to dodge. There's brute-like animal enemies in this DLC, like a hippopotamus and a warthog, that are very, very hard to understand. I mean, what else? There's so much to this. I got a whistle from some random guy, and he's like, once you find some area that has this description, make sure to blow the whistle there. I'm like, how am I going to remember to do that? And so I just think that's so cool because there's always things to do. I'm already experiencing slight depression from there never being another Elden Ring DLC. You said this is going to be the only one, correct?
I think that's what they said. I mean, sometimes companies say that, and then the money looks them in the face. Like Square Enix said that they weren't going to make any expansions for Final Fantasy 16, and then they did. So It's not, when they say never, it's not like always written in stone, but From is usually pretty straightforward with what they say. Well,
let's hope they do, because they have built a masterpiece of a main game and a DLC that truly, I haven't had this much fun playing a game in a minute. I can really enjoy most games, but this game is done so well and is so rewarding and so unique to your play style and your choices. And the fighting's so good, and there's just so much variety. I'm obsessed with it. It really is.
It is crazy. From just seems to have some special sauce that is a secret ingredient that nobody else can quite figure out. It's like Chick-fil-A sauce. Like, what's that made out of? I don't even know. But yeah, it is crazy. A couple questions about the DLC. How you obviously haven't seen the whole thing yet, but how big do you think it is? You've played today for like 7 hours, yesterday for like 7 hours, and then on Friday as well? Oh yeah, on Friday you did the big long stream. That was like, what, 10 hours or something? Maybe longer than that.
I think it was only 8 or 9, but still.
Okay. Yeah, so regardless, you've played like 25-ish, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
How, like, do you feel like you've just scratched the surface? How much more do you think you've got to uncover here?
I do think I've just scratched the surface. But it all depends on how you want to play it. If you're not worried about checking every little indent and cliffside that you see on the map, then sure, it's not going to be that big. But still, I want to say the DLC map has got to be like at least a quarter to a third the size of the main game, probably. It is huge. It really, really is.
Are there like like in Elden Ring, I don't think this is a spoiler, there were some areas that are like, what would you even call that? Like a layer below the regular map. Does the DLC have that same thing with like maybe it will, and that's a spoiler that I just
I mean, it might. There's so many things. Since I stream the game, some people do know some secrets that I missed, so they'll be like, hey, you should turn around and check that wall. It's a fake wall, and then you're gonna lay down in this bed and it's going to take you to some new area. Or you should just emote in front of that statue and make sure you do the right emote out of your 30 emotes you have. And then a door will open and you'll unlock an entire new section of the map. So in my opinion, I don't think even with millions of people all playing this at once, I bet every area hasn't been found.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, some of them are very, at least in the base game, are very obscure to get to, like that kind of weird snake dragon boss that you had to like lay down in a very specific spot.
Yeah.
To access. And so, yeah, there could be things like that in it for sure. You mentioned you like how difficult it is. I know a lot of people have kind of been on both ends of either liking that or hating it. You don't have to leave this page, Devin. We can just talk about the next two probably without links if you want. But a lot of people have been review bombing the game, saying it's too hard. So I think it's like Steam score has gone down from whatever it was, overwhelmingly positive, I would assume, to mixed, just because they are struggling with it. I know some of the bosses look incredibly difficult. Like that first one that had that big, kind of like the Japanese dragon kind of looking dude.
It was like a dancing lion.
Yeah, dancing, exactly. He looked very difficult, and I think he's kind of the first one that's been crushing everybody. Yeah, I don't know. What you said you like the difficulty. I think some people are a little stubborn in that they say, well, if I have to use summons, then the game is too hard. But I'm just like, this, I don't know. I feel like From has built this game, and maybe even this DLC specifically, knowing that, okay, a lot of people are going to use summons, so we're going to make some crushing bosses that, like, even if you use summons, are really going to test you.
Right.
I don't know. What's your opinion on the difficulty controversy?
I have a lot of thoughts. I think people like to hate on new things all the time. It's the automatic response. I try to not do that. Secondly, this game is not linear in any way. The DLC is not linear. If you're struggling with a boss, you can legitimately go find 16 other ways to go for the next 20 hours. Level up.
Right.
Get new items. I saw a video. I don't want to spoil anything, but they've introduced some new mechanic that creates a new build in the DLC that is so broken it can two-shot bosses. And so, For me, I'm like, are you wanting to get immersed in the game? Or do you want to just tell your friends you've beat the game? You know what I mean? Because
so you think a lot of those people are just like, I just want to mainline the 5 main bosses, which are kind of like the choke points anyways, because they're super hard.
And then tell everyone how easy the game was and how, I don't know. I like to get immersed in it. I've spent 2 hours on one boss. I've spent 10 hours on one boss. And I try not to cheese it too hard. I'm actually unable to cheese it because I don't even know how to use magic or anything in the game. I don't even know how it works. But everyone has a different play style. You should be able to get through the DLC no matter how you're playing it. And I think they've set it up in such a way that you can. Sometimes it is really frustrating, but I have left a boss fight after trying 30 times and found 10 to 20 hours of other things to do, which give me new weapons, new mechanics, and I assume when I go back to those bosses, I'll have a much better shot.
I'm curious, did you beat that one boar one that was charging you?
No.
Or was that the one you're talking about leaving?
That is pretty much where we're going to start tomorrow. Okay. But I know a secret near it. Thanks to TikTok, I came across the secret on accident. And it should open up a new area that we can go and explore before even having to do that. So, But yeah, that guy's a pain in the freaking butt. For anybody playing the DLC, the guy on the warthog is, he's frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. I did see that. From and basically every other company patches their games all the time after they come out, and in their patch notes they did mention what's that called? Like balance changes. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the game has become like infinitely easier or anything, but I'm guessing they're watching their Steam score like drop from overwhelmingly positive to mixed, and they're like, "What the heck? We thought people wanted our games to be hard." So I don't think they're going to change like their design philosophy or anything, but I bet they're frustrated with the whining for sure.
Yeah, it's hard. It's like I think they should just stick with how they made the game. Yeah. And then if people enjoy it and they really want to learn it, then it's a beautiful thing. That's hard. It's like making a movie and people say it's too scary, or like, but that was our vision. You know, I didn't like this character, and it's like, well, that was part of the entire story. That character is so important to our story. We don't want to take him out. That type of thing.
Yeah, that has got to be a tricky balance as like a creative person, where you want to get feedback from your audience so that you're giving them, you know, something that they will love, but at the same time, it's a piece of art that you're making, and so you want it to be true to what you want to make. There's got to definitely be some conflict there, and money is probably right in the middle of that conflict too, where, you know, some companies will really just kind of give in to their audience, just knowing they could make more money doing so. But I don't know, From is they're in a very unique place where even though they make their games harder than almost anybody else does, everybody kind of loves them for it. So I think they just kind of need to hold their ground.
I agree,
in my opinion. Cool. Well, excited to watch you play that for the next while, it seems like. It does look really fun. I just watching you play it the last few days, I've been like, man, I want to hop back into a game like this. But they are intimidating, and they require a lot of you, lots of time, effort, and lots of being okay with just getting crushed.
Yeah, they require planning as well, I've noticed. It's so smart to go, okay, I can't do anything on this portion of the map right now. Let me place a marker that tells me there's something important here. Or we just unlocked a new area of the map. And so what I've been doing is it gives you 5 markers. And I place number 1 right on the edge, and then number 2, number 3. And we fully search an area and all of its borders. And it simplifies things so much for me. It makes me not think, oh, I missed so much, because we actually kind of stayed towards the edges. And if you come up with a system, the games can be much less overwhelming, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I love games like this where exploration and discoverability is kind of the exciting part. Because, yeah, like Elden Ring has like really great combat. And a lot of people are in it just for that. But it reminds me of Breath of the Wild so much, in just that, like, the exploring of the world and finding something new and finding a secret or something that in a different way that somebody else did. I think that kind of organic gameplay. They just kind of, like you said, it's not linear. They didn't just put you down a hallway to the boss. They just put the boss in a dungeon somewhere and said, okay, go find him however you want to.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
And you're not going to find all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And some of those things, those secrets looked way tricky. Like there were those big flaming like pot dudes, and you had to like craft just the perfect like bomb shaped thing to throw inside one of them's like heads.
Yeah.
And they only bend down at like certain points and stuff. Yeah, that looked tricky too.
I have a bit of an advantage streaming these games because of the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. People like helping, I'm sure. But cool. Well, Elden Ring is kind of the hot thing right now. I think it, like we said last week, this DLC expansion, Shadow of the Erdtree, is the highest rated expansion of all time.
And it deserves it. I would recommend to anyone spend $40 on this DLC.
Yeah, it seems very worth the money. Seems like there's a lot of value there. So cool. Well, that's a lot of good video gaming this week. Mine were kind of 2 smaller games in comparison, but that's kind of how we roll. Next up for board games this week, I played 3. The 3 games that I played are, first, Twisty Tracks. This is a very simple game that I don't feel like anyone ever talks about, but I think it's really fun. It's a great way to introduce somebody to like some aspects of board gaming. Basically, you have this little grid, and on every turn you will flip over a tile, and that tile will have some train tracks on it, and you'll place that tile inside your little empty grid somewhere. And then any trains, you have 4 trains on your board of 4 different colors. Any trains whose track is now attached to the track on that tile, you move forward to the edge, basically. So very short game. You only get whatever that is. So 4x4 minus 1 that's built in. So 15 turns is the maximum. And each turn everybody plays simultaneously. So it's like super fast, like 15-minute game. In this game, you get a point for every edge of a tile that you cross. So you get lots of points if you're able to make your trains kind of do loops and twists and spin around. You have to be really careful that you don't run them into each other, though. Because if you do that, then both of those trains crash and are lost. Also, on the edges or the border of the map are these different destinations. And if you get to a destination, then you get some amount of points based on how far away that destination is from the starting station. And so those are the 2 competing scoring elements. You can get a lot of points if you just jet right for the really far away stations. But you can also get a lot of points if you make some really intricate loops that spin your trains around. And after the 15 tiles are placed out, or everyone's trains are either at stations or crashed, whoever has the most points is the winner. Yeah, this game is really great. Really recommend it, especially for families, somebody that wants a shorter game, wants to maybe get into board gaming. This is it's really solid. I played it with my wife and her sister and my brother-in-law last week, and it was we didn't have very much time, and this just kind of slotted in perfectly. So I really recommend Twisty Tracks. Like I said, I don't feel like many people talk about it, but it's one of my favorite games with trains in it. And it's much simpler even than something like Ticket to Ride. Very, very simple game to play. Next up, I played a 6-player game of Heat, Pedal to the Metal. This is a very popular racing game where you control a car on a racetrack, and you're just trying to win the race. And you do that by playing cards from your hand, and the cards will move your car forward generally. Some of them are stress cards, and you don't know how far forward they're going to move you. You have to flip over cards from the top of your deck that will give you some value to add to your kind of speed. And then this game's all about the corners. You have to make sure you don't go around corners too fast, or else you'll spin out and crash, unless you have enough heat in your engine to pay for the extra stress that you're putting on your car. And this game's all about managing kind of your deck and your heat on your engine. Very fun card game. You know, you're throwing down fun cards when there's a straightaway to like really blast super fast and move 25 spaces. And then on turns, you got to shift down to second gear so that I only have to play 2 cards. And it really just kind of feels like you're actually like in a race. You have to think about the corners and think about your speed and what gear you're in. Depending on what gear you're in, you might be able to cool down your engine and put some heat back on your engine so that you can push your engine really hard later in the race. It's a really fun game. Everyone that played it with us was really impressed by kind of how it's not necessarily like a super simple game. The card play takes a little bit to learn because you have to understand how the turns work and how do I get heat back on my engine and why do I want it there and when do I want it not there. So that puzzle of your hand of cards is like a little bit to learn. I think teaching the game is probably the hardest part of playing Heat. But once everybody's rolling, there's a moment like after the first or second corner where everyone's like, I get it. And then they start, kind of getting in their flow. Heat's great. I just have the base game. It has 4 different maps and you can play up to 6 players. Inside there's also 3 or 4 different bonus modules you can add in. I've only played to this point with the garage module, which I think is really awesome. Everyone starts with the same basic deck of cards. That isn't very many. It's like 20 cards or something. Then in the garage module, you set out a bunch of these specialty cards and you take turns choosing one of them. So then my deck of cards will be slightly different than yours. you might have got a turbo card, but I got some better brakes, or I got something, and they'll give you some kind of extra bonuses. So I think that's really fun when we play with that module every time, because it lets you play with the really fun cards. So yeah, he's really awesome. It did get an expansion recently, but I think all it added was new maps. And I haven't really worn out the 4 maps that are already in the game, so I don't know that I'll get that expansion for quite a while. Unless there's more to that expansion I'm missing, but for some reason I thought it was just a map pack. But Heat, Pedal to the Metal, very excellent game. Had a fun time playing. And then last up, with my neighbors, we went over for dinner over the weekend and played Flamecraft together with them and their son. I think their son is 11. He might be 12. And this was a game they had just recently got, so I taught them how to play, and then we played. I've had this game for probably a year and a half. Very cute game about kind of you play as a dragon keeper, and you control these dragons and send them to all these shops in town to help the shops make better bread and food and stuff so that the town grows. And whoever can get the most reputation points as the best dragon keeper in town will be the winner. It's a pretty fun game. It's I'm torn on this one. I've really liked it at some points, and at other points I've thought, I don't know if there's enough variability or enough to this game. Maybe I should sell it. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. But those were kind of my competing thoughts that I've had on this game. Or in this game, you basically send your meeple out to one of the shops in the town, and then you get all of the goods in that shop, which might be a bunch of bread or a bunch of diamonds or meat. There's like 7 or 8 different resources. And then you can activate one of the dragons in the shop, which might let you give a resource to someone else for 2 reputation points, or swap 2 dragons, or draw new dragon cards from the draw pile. There's also these fancy dragons that are cards that give you end game points, basically. The other thing you can do is, with all of those resources, you can enchant a shop, and then you get to add like a bonus card to the top of the shop. You get some bonus reputation, and you get to activate all 3 dragons in that shop. But it's a pretty simple game. You send a dragon somewhere, and then basically do whatever the cards say in that spot. It's fun. I'm kind of going back and forth in my mind on whether I think this is like a silver trophy or a gold trophy game. I have the deluxe version that you're looking at here that has all the wooden pieces for the different resources, and the metal coins, and the dragon miniatures, as opposed to the little wooden meeples. And so the components are awesome. My neighbors just have the regular one, so we played with theirs. And even in the regular one, the game is very pretty. Even in the base version, it comes with a nice, what's that called? Instead of a board that's like a cardboard board, it has a play mat that's really long that you place all of the pieces on. And really nice to see that those come in even the base version. So Flamecraft, it's really good. I just don't know if it's one that has really long like staying power for me. But anyways, this isn't like review corner necessarily, but those were the 3 board games that I played this week, and I've got game night tomorrow, and I'm not sure what we're going to play tomorrow yet, but yeah, some good ones in there. And like I mentioned, I've been doing some reviews over on my board game channel, Gaming Top Down, and then I'm going over every game in my collection, breaking them down letter by letter. So lots of board game stuff going on. Devin, of those 3 games that I played, I think you've played...
I've played all 3 of them.
Oh, have you? Okay. I was going to say, I can't remember if you played Flamecraft, but I think you played the other 2. Cool. What did, do you remember anything about them? It's been a while.
Hardly. I feel like I would want to replay Heat. But I feel like Heat was relatively difficult. Understanding the shifting and the different mechanics, but all good games.
Yeah, the learning curve there of learning it, like I said, I think takes 20 minutes before it clicks for sure. But man, it's awesome. I think it's my favorite of those three for sure. But the other two are solid as well. All right, that is the board games and video games that we played this week. This week, there's not a ton of news, so we're going to go through this pretty quickly, but there is a little bit. In video game news, I don't really have a ton to say about this, but I just wanted to mention it since everybody is kind of talking about Dr. Disrespect at the moment. And yeah, obviously lots of details are kind of unknown, but in 2020, he was kind of banned from Twitch for a little while. And nobody really knew why, but then he came back and, it was whatever. He then co-founded a video game development studio, which is really cool. And, he's a pretty influential guy as far as streaming is concerned. He has big deals with Turtle Beach and probably some other companies as well. Very loud and kind of committed to his personality of, I'm guessing that's a wig. Is that a wig that he wears?
I think so. Yeah, he wears
a wig,
sunglasses every time.
And the sunglasses always. So he's kind of found his niche and he just kind of rolls with it. I've seen some really funny clips of him hopping into. This one's one of my favorites. So he hopped into a game with some random people, and then they don't know it's him playing in their squad, and so he'll ask him who their favorite streamer is. And this one guy's like, oh, I just love Dr. Disrespect. And that's such a funny clip because he pretends to start crying or whatever on the clip. And he's really good at playing things up and being funny in the moment. Anyways, so it came out this week that there were some, I don't know, that the development studio that he co-founded, Midnight Society, and him were parting ways. And it wasn't really clear for a minute why. And I'm not going to read his whole kind of spiel here, but it sounds like the reason that he was banned from Twitch back in, I think 2020 was back in 2017, which is a long time ago. I guess he was messaging someone who ended up being underage. Whether he knew that or anything, there's a lot of details unknown. He did say here, were there Twitch whisper messages with a minor back in 2017? The answer is yes. Were there any real intentions behind these messages? The answer is absolutely not. They were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes leaned too much in the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more. Nothing illegal happened, no pictures were shared, no crimes were committed, and I never met this individual. Talks about they went through arbitration and a settlement, so this person, was paid kind of to be quiet, and everything was kind of settled there, but it sounds like some other people kind of found out. And yeah, it's kind of a weird situation where it seems like a lot of his partnerships are kind of running dry. Turtle Beach has said they're going to drop him as a partner, and that video game company that he co-founded, they've kind of parted ways. He did say on his Twitter in that big long kind of thing that he wrote with many paragraphs. What did he say? He said, if you're uncomfortable, and some of this I'm going to make a little more family friendly for the the show. Anytime you hear a not cuss word that could be turned into one, just assume that it was. If you're uncomfortable with this entire statement and think I'm a piece of crap, that's fine. But I'm not freaking going anywhere. I'm not the same guy that made this mistake all those years ago. I'm taking an extended vacation with my family, as mentioned on my stream, and I'm coming back with a heavy weight off my shoulders. They want me to disappear. Yeah, freaking right. End quote. So anyways, I don't even really know that there's much to say because opinions here are really hard to have because we don't have really very many details other than he did message somebody that was underage. Again, we don't even know if he intended to or knew that they were underage. So lots of unknowns here, but just wanted to call that out since it's been a kind of a hot topic. And yeah, wish that there could be, no drama in the world, but unfortunately there kind of is. Anything that you want to say about that, Devin, or was that kind of the summary that we should end it with?
Nope, you killed it. You killed it.
All right, cool. We'll just leave it at that. And maybe, Devin, you could be the new Dr. Disrespect. We could get you some sunglasses. I don't know if that's a real
I'd
mustache.
have a much better hairline if we got a wig.
I would too. Maybe I should pull one off. He's kind of committed to the really ugly wig, so we'd have to find a really ugly one. But anyways. All right, next up, just a small thing. Hellblade 2 apparently didn't even crack the top 100 games list as far as sales are concerned in Europe. This game, I think, came out last month. It's a Xbox kind of exclusive game since it's published by Microsoft, and it was made by a team that Microsoft now owns. I forget what the team is called. I don't think it's not Ninja Theory. What is their name? Scroll down just a little bit, Devin, so I can see what their name is. Why can I not remember? I can't remember. Ninja Theory? Oh, yeah, maybe it is Ninja Theory. For some reason, I had them mixed up. Anyways,
the developer of the game.
Yeah,
Ninja Theory.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it seems like it didn't sell very well. It didn't review incredibly well either last month. Very, very pretty game that I think some people really loved. It was kind of, the reviews were either people loved it or people didn't. There wasn't a lot in the middle. This is kind of a weird situation. I feel like on Xbox especially, the customers, I guess is the right word, but the people that play there generally are like all in on Game Pass, right? Because Xbox is kind of all in on Game Pass. They're putting Call of Duty on Game Pass. All of their first party games come to Game Pass on day one. So you don't need to pay anything extra apart from that subscription to get all of your games. So I feel like they're kind of, their audience is being kind of groomed to not buy games for full price, because especially if it's an Xbox game, it's just going to be part of their subscription. It seems like, I wonder how many people play on Xbox that don't have Game Pass. I'm guessing that number is pretty low. Maybe not, but I imagine it is, especially for like their hardcore audience. It's probably just such a better deal. Like, I have Game Pass and Xbox has 30 studios, so they're going to release 6 games a year. I'm guessing that Game Pass is less than whatever $70 times 6 is. And so it's probably like the financial incentive is there for the customer to be on the subscription. But it does seem like it's hurting some of their games from making a big splash. You could even see that in like the best-selling game on Sony's platform last month was Sea of Thieves. So on PlayStation, people buy games. Anyways, kind of a weird thing that's going on right now in the industry. Just wanted to call it out. Yeah. Next up, just a brief little update. Sony has a lot of backwards compatible PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 4 games that run on PlayStation 5, but PlayStation 3 is obviously kind of the missing spot. It's because the PlayStation 3 was made on a weird computer architecture. It's not made on, I think, what they call x86, I think, architecture, which is what the PlayStation 4 and 5 are built on. So it's difficult to get PlayStation 3 games running on them. There's been rumors for a long, long time that they've been working on fixing that so that we could play PlayStation 3 games on PlayStation 5, which would be amazing because the PlayStation 3 has so many awesome games on it. I still have mine in the basement just because I have so many games on there that I can't really play otherwise. So I just kind of keep it until we get to a perfect day when I hopefully can. But anyways, Jeff Grubb, the dude we quote quite often since he's very well connected, he mentioned that he has been hearing for quite some time that they've been working on it, and he actually thought it would have been revealed by now. Quote here, "That clearly didn't happen, but that doesn't mean it will never happen." I don't know, maybe it does. That's kind of how he ended that. But he's hearing a lot of things from his sources. That would be really cool if they were able to get that in a working state.
Yeah, I'd love to play Fallout 3.
Yeah, me too. And I don't even know. There's so many. Puppeteer and the Twisted Metal game that's kind of stranded on the PlayStation 3. And yeah, I don't know. Just there's a lot. The Infamous games and Resistance and Killzone. Lots of cool games on that system. There's even that Prince of Persia game that had that really colorful like art style. I've been wanting to play that one for a while, but again, I don't want to necessarily pull my PlayStation 3 up. It's a little brutal to update that thing. So I'd love to play it on the PlayStation 5. Anyways, hopefully they can figure that out. Last thing here in video games, there was a little bit of console war drama. It's kind of a dumb one, but last week we mentioned the development team behind Black Myth Wukong. They are a developer named Game Science. Said that their game would not be coming out to Xbox at the same time as PlayStation and PC. And based on some of the comments they made in that statement, it sounded like it was because they were struggling to get it to run specifically on the Xbox Series S. A couple of days later, Microsoft gave a comment and said, "We cannot comment on the deals made by our partners with other platform holders, but we remain focused on making Xbox the best platform for gamers, and great games are at the center of that," end quote. They also said that they were working hard with Game Science's team to make sure that this game came to their platform. The way that they said that, "we can't comment on the deals made by our partners with other platform holders," seemed like they were trying to throw some shade back at PlayStation in like, yeah, PlayStation paid Game Science a bunch of money so that it would come to their platform first. So it seems like there's a little bit of misdirection here, maybe by Sony and Xbox, of like, well, Sony knows if they don't say anything that it'll seem like the Series S is holding games back, but Microsoft, by saying what they said, made it seem like Sony was paying so that the game would not come to Xbox for a while. So I don't know, just some dumb drama there, but either way, I think the game looks really fun. I hope it's great on the Xbox as well. I really don't really care. I'm going to play it on PlayStation because I like that funny little noise that the trophy makes when you get it. The ding, ding. Love that.
It's all worth it.
Oh, and then the Platinum trophy has a different noise, and that noise is glorious when it pops up. So anyways, that was the dumb console war controversy or one of them this week. All right, last up in our movie and TV show segment, only one thing here. Season 2 of the Fallout show has had a tiny little tease with this image of a character. I haven't played Fallout New Vegas, but this character is a character in Fallout New Vegas, and from what I read, it sounds like he's the main villain. They said, quote, "Many of our lead characters are Vegas bound. Las Vegas in the world of Fallout is Robert House's town." And so this character is Robert House, I guess. And like I said, I think he's kind of the mob boss or whatever you would call him of New Vegas. So it seems like they're going to be continuing kind of by following New Vegas's storyline there in Vegas.
Awesome.
Which I know a lot of people really love.
Yeah.
So it'll be cool to see how they turn that into a TV show. I imagine that set on the strip, will look really cool.
Oh yeah, I would imagine as well.
I still haven't watched the first season yet, but I do plan to get back to them. Like you said earlier, TV shows, big commitment, hard to get into sometimes. All right, and then last up for video games, we've got, for the first time ever, crowdfunding corner for video game. Some games get crowdfunded. It's not as common as it is in board games, not even close. But it does happen. Games like Hollow Knight were famously crowdfunded. Same with Shovel Knight. Maybe your game has to say Knight in the title to be crowdfunded.
Maybe.
But this game I think looks awesome. It's called PipSqueak. Has cool pixel art, and you play as a mouse with a really big sword. And the pixel art is great. Just the animation of that door spinning right there. Oof. I love good pixel art. This game seems like it's taking inspiration from those games I just mentioned. Kind of has the Shovel Knight pogo stick thing where you can swing your sword down to bounce off of things that way. So some platforming things there, and then they show some boss fights and some other fighting here in the video as well. I think the game looks like it could be really solid.
Same.
I've backed it already, actually. And so we'll decide if I'm going to keep that pledge or not before the campaign ends. But it has a free demo on Steam, so I'm going to download that probably tonight. I just want to try the demo out. I think that Team Cherry, the team that made Hollow Knight, even like tweeted like, "Hey, congrats on putting your game up. Your demo's really cool," or something. I didn't pull the tweet up, but so I think their campaign here has gotten a bit of buzz. Similar to board games, they have some stretch goals here where if it reaches certain thresholds, like raises $75,000, they'll add like a new area. I think in this case that area is called Coral Cove. And 85,000 Australian dollars, then you can take on Professor Tinker's Trials, which is probably like some boss rush mode or something. So there's some cool stretch goals if it's if you like 2D kind of Metroidvania games with fighting in them, similar to something like Hollow Knight or Shovel Knight. We'll just say both of them for now. Then I think this is one that you'll probably be interested in too. So check out PipSqueak. It is on Kickstarter, I think, for a couple more weeks. Scroll up to the top, Devin, real quick, and we'll see if we can see the end date. It should be at the very top. Yeah, Saturday, July 13th. 16 days from now. Cool. So we're going to have 2 crowdfunding corners today. But this one was very short, and the next one's also going to be very short. But PipSqueak, man, it looks so cool. I think the game is $17, which that's a really low price as well. So yeah, love it. All right, that was all of the video game news. In board games, again, not a ton of news this week, but a couple things I just wanted to call out. First one, I thought was kind of fun. Color blindness in board games is kind of a topic that's brought up a lot, because when you have pieces that are different colors, it can be hard for people with color blindness to just tell, which one is which color. I actually play with someone that has color blindness in one of my board game groups, and even though we give him a little bit of crap sometimes for, hey, you moved green instead of yellow, it's been eye-opening for me to see that little things that companies do can make a big difference for people that are colorblind. So Mattel, who makes a lot of not amazing, but well-known board games, Uno, Skip-Bo, Phase 10, Uno Attack, Uno Quattro, Tumblin' Monkeys, and Blockus. I think they said are turning 80% of their games colorblind friendly. And so what they're doing is they're adding, this is usually done a few different ways. They have a graphic here at the top. Yeah, that top one, Devin, that shows how they're doing it for some games. So they're going to add shapes to or patterns, to some of the pieces. So in Blockus, they're adding like an X to red, kind of a diamond to blue. On Uno, they're going to be adding some icons at the top of the card. Again, like a star and a diamond and stuff, so that, again, players can separate them. And then in some of their other games, they're just separating them with the number of prongs that piece had on it. Cool initiative. A lot of modern board games do this already. So it's cool to see a company that has been around in games for, decades and decades and decades, kind of before this push was even a thing, follow suit. So cool to see them do that. All right, that was the only item in board game news this week. So we're just going to hop right into crowdfunding corner there as well. And there weren't any new games this week, so I'm only doing the final call. So these are both games we looked at last week. So final call here for Rise of the Wastelands. I have this one backed. I think it looks really cool. It's a 4X game where you're exploring, exterminating monsters, and trying to put your influence tokens on your opponent's boards before they can. And this is the one I gave a shout out to last week because it has plastic pieces in the deluxe version, but then the regular version that's quite a bit cheaper has these awesome big wooden meeples as well. So I'm actually getting the regular version because I think it looks better. to be honest, with the printed meeples. And they still fit on the dual layer boards and everything. So just wanted to give another shout out to that game. I really hope that they reach a couple more of their stretch goals. So everyone, the hundreds of thousands of people listening right now, get over there and pledge so that we can break all their stretch goals, because I want them in my copy when it comes next year. And then another shout out to Sovereign Fall of Wormwood. This is that game that has the 32 different artists that made all of the artwork. Super cool initiative, sci-fi game with awesome art. And I think the game comes with either 6 or 10 different character decks that you end up playing as. And I watched a couple of gameplay videos of this one, and it has this cool system where you will place cards face down in kind of this area called the Forge, and then you put a token on it. The back of the card has this like track of circles that track the amount of time that has passed, I think, since that card was put down, and you get to move that token forward. And the front of the card has some value on it. It might be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 9. And you have to let that timer get to that number before you can flip it over. So that's just like how much time that unit took to build or whatever. You can do some things to like push it up extra amounts. And so I like it when a card game uses the back of their cards for something cool. Radlands also does this. The back of the cards are all the punks that have 1 health, and then the fronts of the cards are like the characters that generally have more than 1 health. This one does it really cool too. You can kind of fake out your opponent by all of the cards in the game that score you points are called echoes, and they always require 2 of this time track in order to flip over as a point. But you could bluff and pretend that one of your cards is not an echo point card by like pushing it to 3 or 4. And so they're like, oh crap, that one's not a point card. I don't want to try and steal it from him because it's past 2 where he would probably flip it. And so I'm going to attack one of his different cards. So there's kind of this mind game you play with the other player based on the back of the card. And then once they are flipped over, they have this cool art on them. So yeah, I'm kind of really into this one. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to back this one yet, but I've been watching it very closely, and I think it looks cool. So last call for that one as well. This one and Rise of the Wastelands both end the same day, I think, on July 11th. So that will be just after our next episode goes public, but wanted to give them a shout out here with a little lead time. Devin, I think that both of those games were your pick of the week last week. So if you had to pick one out of one of those two, which one would you be more interested in? A game where you're moving your troops around a map, or a game where you're playing with a hand of cards, trying to outsmart your opponent and destroy their cards and steal them and stuff?
Probably the latter. I think Sovereign looks super cool. Like, I'm just looking at some of these cards, and the art is what gets me. This Graft Necrosis card right here looks so good. And
kind of a creepy character.
Yeah. I kind of love it, though.
Yeah, very cool sci-fi art in that game for sure. All right, that is all of our segments. So we're going to close with a listener inquiry. Just another shout out here. If you want to write into the show, we read all of the questions that come in, and we'll answer some of them live on the podcast or save them for future shows, or maybe even to include in our monthly Q&A where we answer a bunch of them. So please write into the show. You can do that on patreon.com/supergamebrothers. The question we got this week is from Julia, and Julia said, what were your favorite games when you were kids? Both video games and board games. And then the part of the question I really want to focus on, and if you've played these games as adults, what do you think of them now? This is a tough one. Real quick while you're thinking, Devin, I want to open with a little story. Yesterday, I got an email from Sony Rewards, and they said, hey, Sony Rewards is shutting down at the end of the year, which is a whole other tangent I could go on. That's a bummer. Sony Rewards is cool. I've gotten tons of free PlayStation Network credit from that program because I have a Sony credit card, and so I use that credit card to buy my games, and then you get points, and then you can get free credit. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They said, because you've been part of the program, here is a credit for a free Sony movie. So I got to go into Sony's little portal and choose a free movie. The movies to choose from were not very good. So I saw one. I was like, oh yeah, I obviously want that one out of this list. And so I watched this movie last night with my 3 boys because my wife was gone. So we watched the movie Hook last night, which, man, I've watched that movie dozens and dozens of times growing up. It's a movie all about Peter Pan, who has grown up and forgotten that he is Peter Pan, basically. And so he has to go back to Neverland after Captain Hook kidnaps his kids when he's back visiting Wendy because she's getting a new wing of the hospital built in her name because she's helped so many orphans. Anyways, I loved this movie growing up. I thought it was excellent. There was nothing better in cinema ever. Watching it last night, I'm sad to announce that's not the case. It's not the best movie that's ever come out. I still had a lot of fun, and the nostalgia level in this movie is super high. The scene with the food fight and him finally like imagining the food like seared into my brain. So many scenes. I was like, oh yeah, this is good stuff. But the writing's a little crummy. I don't even think Robin Williams is like especially great as Peter Pan. I think he's like a great actor and incredibly funny, but I think he's a little out of place as that character, kind of. Anyways, I don't know. So the movie, watching it all these years later, I thought was a little bit of a letdown. There's also, this is, trying to keep the show a little family friendly. There's a bit of like a weird love triangle with, triangle's not the right shape. This is like a love square that we got with Peter Pan. So Peter,
Ooh.
How the story works, Peter initially finds Wendy. Wendy loves Peter. Peter doesn't want to grow up, right? He's that Peter Pan boy. He don't want to grow up. He sings a whole song about it.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy starts to get older, and she like eventually tells him like, Peter, I love you. And he's like, I don't want to grow up. And then he comes back one time, and she's a lot older, like 40 or something, or 50, I don't know. And in her bed next to her is her granddaughter. And Peter sees the granddaughter and is like, oh, shoot, she hot. He didn't say that. He said, I want to give her a kiss. But Peter Pan doesn't know what a kiss was at the beginning of the movie. He gives her like a thimble, right? Because he thinks that's what a kiss is. Anyways, and so she's like, no, you can't know my granddaughter because I don't want her to care for you like I did because you leave all the time and we grow up and you don't. And he said, no, a real kiss. And then he kisses the granddaughter while the grandma's right there. She's in the bed. Then Peter Pan. So he's been living in whatever, Neverland for like 50 years. At this point, the grandma loved him. The granddaughter he loves. He leaves Neverland, marries the granddaughter. Her name's Moira, I think. So then like 20 more years pass. He's older. He's got some kids. He's married to Moira. Since once you leave Neverland, you start to forget it. So he's forgotten that he's Peter Pan, right? So he goes back to visit this lady who was the, he thinks helped him as an orphan to find his family, which I guess is kind of maybe true, but anyway, she really just loved him because she knew he was Peter Pan. But he's now married to her granddaughter. So that's two sides of our love square. Then you get into the movie later, and Tinkerbell is Julia Roberts, right? And you just think Tink and like Peter are like really good friends and they're buddies and whatever. Tinkerbell all of a sudden grows humongous, breaks her entire clock house, and turns into like human size, and tells Peter that she loves him and then kisses him. So they're kissing. He's married to Moira. he can't remember Moira because then he's in Neverland, and while you're there and he's like remembering his Peter Pan powers and can fly all of a sudden, he can't remember that he has a wife and kids, so he forgets he even needs to go to Captain Hook to save his kids. So he's forgetting this, kissing Tink. Then he remembers. He's like, oh yeah, I got a wife. And then he goes back to Moira. And Tink's sad. So basically everybody that is a female in this show loves Peter Pan. So that is the love square that I just went into for like 10 minutes. Have you seen Hook lately?
He's a cheater.
Yeah. I mean, the grandma Wendy, all over him. Granddaughter Moira, all over him. And the little fairy, all over him. Anyways, it was a fun time, though. You know, yelling Rufio. Was a good time. What else happens in that show? I remember being really scared when, like, Captain Hook breaks into the house and kidnaps the kids. They kind of build that up. My kids were like, Dad, this isn't scary. And I was like, okay, cool. But anyways, Hook has a lot of nostalgia for me, but wasn't very good. And I think that the same thing happens with board games and video games. That was a lot of stuff I just said about Hook. Is there anything you would like to interject, Devin, before I just kind of talk some more?
No. I was gonna crack a joke, and I don't know. Anyways,
all right. Well, continuing this question. I mean, we've talked a little bit about the games that we really loved as kids. The thing that I think back to is the games that I loved on the PlayStation seem to have not held up as well in my eyes. Apart from a few, like Crash Bandicoot, I think does. But a lot of them, Pandemonium,
Resident Evil.
Yeah, exactly. Resident Evil. Basically, any game that was going for realism back then, I feel like doesn't. Also, any game that was like 3D back then, they really struggled at 3D back then. So even though I loved those games, playing them nowadays, I'm just like, I don't want to do that. But any game that I loved that was 2D, Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the PlayStation, still great. And basically all the games on the Super Nintendo when they hadn't figured out 3D, I still think are amazing. So I think the 2D versus 3D thing is kind of where I fall on video games, at least. Do you think that's a fair assessment, Devin?
I think you've nailed it. Yeah. When I think of Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario, those games still play well. Mega Man is so freaking good, so difficult, so rewarding to beat bosses. Battletoads is also super difficult. I would say is probably the worst of those games as far as how it plays now, but it's still fun. Yeah,
I just feel like they had kind of mastered 2D at that point. And even nowadays, we just talked about PipSqueak. And yeah, that game will be like a little more modern feeling, but it's kind of trying to copy a lot of the 2D games from back then, like Castlevania. I mean, Hollow Knight and Shovel Knight and PipSqueak, they're all like inspired by Castlevania, Mega Man, DuckTales, which is one we didn't necessarily have, but it was another 2D game that was pretty well loved back then. I don't know, I feel like we kind of hit our peak with 2D, and nowadays we have prettier 2D games that might have like a better map system or something and some other stuff, but like 2D has kind of been like in banger land for a long time, where 3D is a very bad.
Peter Pan.
Exactly. Yeah, that never grow up. First star on the right to Bangerland. Exactly. 3D has not been at that level. Like, I feel like 3D was like PlayStation 1 tried it and they were like, oh crap, this is bumpy. Mario 64 is good, but then lots of crap. GoldenEye, hard to play. And then like 3D, I feel like didn't really get great until, I don't even know, a lot of the games even on PlayStation 2 and the Xbox are like a little wonky still. So I just think 3D took longer to figure out. And so 3D games from childhood are just a little rougher. Yeah, I don't know. As far as board games are concerned, I feel like that's a hard one. I feel like I had a lot more access to video games, so it's easier to kind of see the difference. In board games, it's just these were the 5 games we had, and now I realize they're not very good.
Right, yeah. I have one thought on that. As a kid, I don't think you played them to their exact rule set.
No, yeah.
You just played them with whatever pieces were there. There were pieces missing, cards missing. We're going to make up some rules for categories or checkers or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then you play them with their actual rules today, and you're like, that wasn't that fun jumping your checker with my checker.
Yeah, yep, I agree.
You know?
Yeah, totally agree. And I think that games back then also relied too much on luck, right? Like games like Sorry and I can't even think of it. Like even Monopoly, you roll a die and then you move that number of spots. That's like so much variety, and like I can move 1 or 6 and go to jail. And that's totally out of my hands. Nowadays, games try to give you most of the decision making and just sprinkle in some luck for like the variety and flair. So I do think we've come a long way in that regard. But you're right. As a kid, it was madness. We didn't play any game correctly. I remember for this last Christmas, we got the kids Mouse Hunt. That's not what it's called. Mouse Trap.
Mouse Trap.
Mouse Hunt. Very fun movie, though. Love that one. Mouse Trap, the board game. And I remember as a kid, basically all we did was set up the little Rube Goldberg machine and then see if we could get it to work and fall on the mice. We actually played it because I read the rule book when we bought it, and it was actually kind of fun. It's not like great, but there's so much luck in games like that. I guess that makes it easier for a kid to win. Like my 5-year-old beat me generally because there's some die or dial or something that you roll to determine how much you move. But yeah, I don't know. Nostalgia is a powerful thing, and I think I'll always like the movie Hook, and that score by I think it's John Williams, who did most of Steven Spielberg's movies. Jaws, and John Williams also did Star Wars, which wasn't a Spielberg movie. John Williams don't miss, and I feel like the soundtrack to Hook is probably the best thing about it. But yeah, it's still got a special place in my heart, even though it's Metacritic. Its Rotten Tomatoes score it is and probably should be rotten, but hey, that love square, that was quite a thing to witness.
He doesn't need any Moira that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Oh my gosh, I need to go to bed.
Yeah, you do. Well, with that, let's get us out of here then, because that is the end of this episode of the Super Game Brothers. This was episode 13, which means we've been doing this for almost 4 months. Is that right? 4 times 4? Maybe 3 months. Who knows? So we've got lots of other episodes. If you haven't heard the rest of them, make sure to check them out. We got video versions on YouTube, where we show kind of the stuff that we're talking about behind our faces. Or you can stay audio only. We love you too. On podcast services, Spotify. Make sure to check us out on Patreon so that you can write into the show, join our monthly giveaway, and check out Devin every weekday that is, playing video games for more hours than a person probably should, but he's having a good time doing it. And that is on our YouTube channel here, and on Twitch at Player4, and TikTok at Player4 TV. I think that was all the ending shenanigans. So, Devin, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Nope. Thank you for writing in. It was fun.
It was. Thanks, Julie, for the question. Really appreciate it. And everybody for listening. We will see you on the next one. And we'll be recording. Ooh, that'll be weird. I think on the 4th of July. We might have to move that around. We'll figure that out. But just more scheduled shenanigans. We'll figure it out. But have a good week, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.